we should be live. Double checking that our audio is working. Yes, it looks like we're good there. Welcome everybody to another live stream repair. We've got 3 HomePods that have showed up today. Let's see, the first one here from Curt has some sort of strange static sound coming from it and other bass issues. Seems to be stemming from DC offset, but we'll see here. Second is from Anthony with also what seems to be more DC offset issues causing death farts and bass that drops out. And then we'll wrap up with Terry's, which I believe has no power. I'm not 100% sure. But we'll find out when we get it opened up. So, of course, we're going to go ahead and start with the first one here from Curt with bass issues. So let's go ahead and plug this into power, see if we can take a listen for ourselves what's going on here. Oh, and of course, don't want to forget our drink. So that finished powering on. Let's go ahead and wake it up.
I'm having trouble.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I heard a pretty significant pop, which isn't a guarantee that there's a DC offset issue, but it is typically a pretty good sign. But the bass is still working. I do hear a bit of static coming from it. You guys probably won't be able to hear that. So, and again, a pretty significant pop again when we unplug it from power. So I'm gonna hazard a guess that we've probably got too much DC offset going on here. Now, DC offset, if you guys didn't know, is simply just how far away from 0 volts DC you are. So be it 50 millivolts positive or 50 millivolts negative DC, it's still, at the end of the day, DC offset. And in a perfect world, you want your audio amplifier to be 0 volts DC, period. The further away from that 0 volts you are, the more of an impact it's going to have on the performance of your speaker and your amplifier. We generally don't want to see more than around 50 millivolts of DC offset coming from the amplifier. And when we start seeing more than that, it's usually the filtering capacitors on the amplifier that are allowing that DC voltage through the amp and into your speaker. The amplifier actually has a bit of smarts built into it, and when it sees that DC offset grow to around 2 or 3 volts of DC voltage, again, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It will do what most people call a death fart, and then restart itself, sort of in an attempt to save itself, but it's just programmed behavior into the amp. So let's go ahead and tear this apart and get the amplifier out of there so we can do some testing and confirm our suspicion here. We're going to start with our Jimmy tool, of course. And we're going to insert that into the top layer here under that plastic. We're going to keep this tool level with the plastic as we go around and cut through that adhesive. We're not using this tool to pry the plastic up. All we're doing is cutting that adhesive. And it's going to take a few times around until it'll basically just pop off all by itself. That is how you avoid scratching and cracking this piece. And look at that. Perfect. Let's catch up with the chat real quick here. Hey Curt, glad you could make it. Hey Martin. Hello HTPC. I think we got everyone there for now. Okay, we're gonna grab our T6. This is the only bit that we're gonna need for pretty much all of our repairs today, as well as most HomePod repairs in general. Oh, my fat pee-pee.
I found that I've accidentally washed it.
Thank you. I almost lost my fat pee-pee. See right there? This is my favorite knife. Alright. Anyways. Where were we? Oh yeah. We're going to take our T6 and get the screws for the display out. And we're going to get our jimmy tool and give ourselves a gap under that display for us to stick a plastic tool in there. And then we're going to pry that off with our plastic tool. Yeah, I'm proud of my fat little pee-pee. It's a great knife. I saw some YouTuber promoting it like a few months ago, and I immediately pre-ordered it. I was like, this is finally my chance. This is the first knife I ever bought, or well, the first like real knife I guess I've ever bought for myself. I've bought cheap knives before, but that's the first one I ever spent any like real amount of money on. I was like, man, this thing is designed to fit right into that super tiny pocket that you have in your jeans that otherwise you can't really fit anything in other than like a little bit of change or whatever. Oh, no wonder it's so weak. It's on one. I was wondering why that was being weird. Now we're cooking with Crisco. Oh man, I cannot fit my AirPods in that pocket. I don't know what kind of jeans you got, but all the more power to you, man. That's impressive. Need to get me a pair of jeans that fits AirPods in that tiny little pocket there. Down there. All right, let's get this ribbon cable detached. Make sure there's no adhesive still stuck on there. And then we will expose those screws. And then let's work on those screws that we got out now. And now we pry. We're gonna stick our flathead in between the plastic basket and the edge of the woofer there. Try to just peel it up one step at a time. This is the part that makes me moist. And by that I mean I sweat. Come on, what'd you think I meant? But that looks like it came up real easy. Oh yeah. Alright, those ones are being a joke, so we're gonna joke right back at them. Yeah. Yeah, those were in there. The heck? Put Big Chungus back. And we will now check out the condition of our subwoofer here. Make sure it hasn't suffered any damage. Give me the goods. Unplug you, subwoofer. Yeah, see, sometimes you gotta fight with this in the... There we go. You gotta really squeeze that tab to get it pulled out. But... So here's the thing. Here's the thing-a-ling. Yeah. It looks good on the top half, but it looks a little roasty on the bottom half. Otherwise, it feels fine. It does not smell the best. That's unfortunate, because otherwise this subwoofer seems to work all right. But we're not going to risk that biscuit. It's just not worth it. We're going to go ahead and just replace that subwoofer there. As much as I really don't want to, especially with how hard it is to come by good ones. But I just don't want to do all the work on this thing and then the woofer gets fried a few months down the road and have to cover it under warranty. So we're going to continue digging. We're going to find out exactly why that subwoofer has started roasting. Because they don't typically just do that on their own, or even under heavy use. Good stuff. Let's get that power supply unplugged and then unscrewed. And then what I like to do, I explained this a few times, but I might as well explain it again here. I've got my plastic tool here that's got the hook on the end to remove the power supply from its connection to the amplifier underneath. I'm going to stick this hook right under the power supply board where it plugs into the AC cable here, and then just pull it straight up. And once it's unplugged, we can just move it out of the way. And we've now got our amplifier left. So we'll unplug that ribbon cable down there, work on the 14 screws holding the amp in. And then we can do some testing. Get over here. All right, the main event. The star of the show. The source of most of the problems of HomePods. The amplifier. Everything looks to be in good condition. We have a date code on our dreaded diode there of 1742K. So it's outside of the usual suspect range of bad diodes that cause no power, but as I always do, we're going to replace that diode anyways to prevent any power issues happening in the future for them. Everything else looks good. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to power this amp up. Before we do any fixes, I want to get it connected to our subwoofer here, which has a connection to our multimeter, and I want to just confirm our suspicion, the source of our problems, that DC offset, or in other words, just any amount of DC voltage that this amp is spitting out to the subwoofer. So we're gonna attach all these test parts here so we can power this amp on. Gonna make sure we get our multimeter turned on to DC voltage mode. And then let's grab a logic board. Don't want to forget that. All right, now we can power this up and see what we got here. All right, hot tamales. We got 800 millivolts and quickly growing. 900 millivolts. We grew 100 millivolts in a matter of seconds. Oh, 950. We've got 1 volt. We've got 1.1 volts. Oh my goodness. That will roast your woofer instantly. Well, not instantly. No, I'm lying. It'll roast it pretty quickly though. So, we don't want this. We don't want to see this any more than 50 millivolts. Why does this happen? Oof. there are 4 filtering capacitors on the back of the amplifier that are supposed to filter that DC voltage before it makes its way through the amp and into your woofer. Over time, these capacitors, either through natural decay or just a bad batch or whatever, nobody really knows, they start to lose their effectiveness over time at filtering that DC voltage. So eventually, pretty much most, if not all, HomePods will need their filtering capacitors replaced in order to rectify this issue. But it is seemingly an inevitable fate for all of them, or most of them. If anything, just by the pure nature of these types of capacitors used, I would suggest, if you're interested in learning more, hop onto Google and just do a search for MLCC capacitor lifespan, and you'll find some information talking about, basically it's a property of these types of capacitors to lose their effectiveness over time. It's not a desirable property, but nonetheless it is one for this type of component used. So over time, it's inevitable they will all go bad. Well, let's go ahead and get them replaced with some fresh new ones that we feel are of higher quality than the ones that Apple used here. Let's grab some replacements from the parts here. There we go. We're going to go ahead and pull the old ones off with our heat. Atlas. Atlas, get back here. My cat's trying to invade the stream. Alright, bad caps be gone. We're going to flux the board up so we can put some low melt solder on these pads. That way when we go and put our new capacitors on, we can turn the heat down on our hot air gun when we're installing the new caps, and we can subject them to not as extreme heat. Just to hopefully sort of extend their potential lifespan. There we go. Easy peasy. A little more flex. Let's get that hair out of there. And we'll put these new caps on here. Oh, and I almost forgot to turn my heat down there. It's not the end of the world, but Beautiful. Alright, we haven't bumped anything or misplaced anything. Nothing is touching anything that shouldn't. So that is good to go. Next, I want to go ahead and measure our 10 ohm resistor right here. This commonly blows up from too much DC offset, so I just want to double check that it's still good here. $10.2 ohms. Spot on. That'll do. Alright, so let's go ahead and replace our power diode here. Like I said, we replace this in every repair that comes in, regardless of what it came in for, because we want to prevent that no power issue, and if it only takes an extra minute of our time and $1 in parts, even if we're not 100% certain that it's a bad batch or a design flaw or anything, it's worth it to me. Worth it to me to do this for everything, or for all of them. Even if we're wrong and it's, you know, a bad batch or a design flaw, you know? Typically, I don't think one would suggest just go willy-nilly replacing something that's still working. But this is one of those, based on my experience things. We see this diode fail so often, and we don't know why it fails, but we've got our suspicions. But regardless, we play it safe and just replace it every time. Of course I make it look easy. I've done this at least 300 times now. You should have seen my my first few times I worked on HomePods. Horrendous. Alright, once we see that solder melt, we're going to give it a few more taps. Let it cool off. I see a little ball in there. Let's go ahead and get that. And I bumped it. I bumped it while I was trying to clean it up. So, and my OCD is not going to let me let that slide there, so we're going to recenter that. Just going to tap it a few times. And there we go. Okay. With those all done, let's go ahead and cool this board off for just a few seconds, and then we will give this a test. That should do. Let's grab a power supply. And then our logic cable. We will lock that down. Grab our power connector. Plug in the subwoofer. Connect our multimeter to the subwoofer. Grab a logic board and power it up. Excuse me. Wow. All right, so we still have base, and we're sitting at around 3 millivolts of DC offset now. So that is a significant improvement from the 1 volt and quickly growing of DC offset that we saw before our repairs here. And I don't hear any static coming from the subwoofer anymore. So I think we've got this one all taken care of. Let's go ahead and put it back together. Start putting that amp in. Really, Atlas? While we're putting the 14 screws in here for the amplifier, now is a great time for me to remind you guys to leave a like if you enjoy this kind of content. If you don't, I'm going to sneak into your house in the middle of the night and trigger a software update on your HomePod and then unplug it from power halfway through. So leave a like. Do it while it's still free. Oh, and also you should subscribe, of course, if you aren't, so that way you'll know whenever I put out a new live stream or an upload. And yeah, I don't upload that often, but I do have plans to make a video soon fixing up a huge number of HomePods and giving a few of them away. So subscribe, get notifications, keep an eye out for that, and you'll have a chance to win a HomePod. I'll give away one that's fixed, and I'll give away one that's broken. And then we'll fix a whole bunch on we'll fix a whole bunch of them. But I've been saving up a few that I've bought broken off eBay that seem to have some interesting repairs to do for them. So, got the amp in. Let's drop that power supply down. Make sure it's nice and lined up. We're going to wiggle it around to make sure it's settled before we push it down and lock it in. Let's go ahead and screw it down. And then plug it back in. Now we can work on our upper rings. Smush that gasket for the logic cable in there. I see a little bit of a little silicone hanging out there. I want to get rid of that. There we go. Okay, let's go walk over to our parts here and sacrifice a subwoofer to the Apple gods here. I absolutely hate having to do it. But we gotta do it. We should do it. We're gonna swap their subwoofer because the top half of the voice coil looks alright, but the bottom half looks and smells horrible. Looks kinda like that. Looks good on the top half and then roasted underneath. And I don't know how much that's going to contribute to the performance and longevity of this woofer. I don't know if it's contributing to their issues, and I don't want to risk it putting this back together and charging them for a repair knowing the condition of this woofer, and then having to take it back a few months later because it blew up. So we're gonna swap in a new subwoofer here. Voice coil looks good, feels nice and smooth, and it smells good. So, of course, I charge a little extra if your subwoofer needs to be replaced, but I think I only charge $20 extra if the woofer needs to be replaced, and I think that's pretty reasonable, especially considering how much I have to pay for parts HomePods just to get them. Eesh. I don't think I make any money off of parts from the pods. I just try to make sure I don't lose money on it. I'm not out here to make a bunch of money. I'm not worried about it. I'm out here to fix a bunch of stuff and have a good time. Get to see a bunch of potentially new issues. Keep these things going. I love them. I don't think I would be doing this sort of service if I didn't like them so much. But man, I love them. And if I can preserve the experience that I love so much for other people, well, dang. That's a great way to live. Oh, before I put the basket on, let's just go ahead and check that it's all sealed up nice. Yep. Let's screw it down. Yep, I gotta make sure it's sustainable. You're correct. But one of my main goals is to keep pricing affordable and competitive. Even when considering an international repair, especially when shipping each way is upwards of $60 to $80, and then my repairs are $60 to $80 on top of that, you're looking to be spending almost as much as it would cost you to just go to Apple and pay them for an out-of-warranty replacement. And I want to compete with that pricing. And also, like, it's not like I want to compete with the pricing to make more business. I want to, I'm doing that so that way more people have the opportunity to, get their HomePod fixed and continue enjoying it as much as I enjoy mine. Another big plus is the more exposure I get to all the issues from everyone else's HomePods, the more I can prepare myself if any of mine blow up too. Like, of course, one of the reasons I do these repairs is to see how they fail in all the ways that they do. It's quite interesting. And I don't see anybody else out there doing it. All right, let's tighten that mesh up a little bit. Not all the way yet. Get the logic board in. Make sure it's nice and settled into the frame. We will drop the top frame down. We're going to loosely screw it into place. We want to leave them loose enough so that we can still wiggle this frame around and give ourselves a gap to wrap the drawstring and the mesh into the side of this frame here. So we're just gonna put like maybe 1 or 2 turns into each of these screws here. And like that, you see we can pull this frame up now, but it still stays in place, so we can wrap our drawstrings around, use some tweezers to help ourselves pull that through. My handboard left Australia on the 25th, heading its way to me. Yee. Oh, come on. There we go. Let's get that screwed down. You notice that I'm using the manual screwdriver for these screws in particular and not my electric screwdriver. That's because the threads for these screws are they can be pretty delicate, so I don't want to accidentally strip them out and have to replace this whole top basket here. That wouldn't be fun. Took 8 days to leave the country. Jeez. Let's get that drawstring stuffed in there. Very good. Other one. Oh, and if you're curious how I keep the drawstring in place, what I do with the end of it here, let's see how close I can zoom you guys in. Nice. So with the end of it here, if you can see that, yeah, there it is. I just take my screwdriver and I stuff the end of the string down in there, and it'll hold itself usually. All right. Let's get the display put on. We're going to, I don't think I've ever actually, get out of here. I don't think I've ever actually talked about this in too much detail. So here's how you put the display back on. Of course you want to flip it upside down, find your ribbon connector there, and we're going to place the display down like this, opposite side of where your drawstrings are. We're going to take our ribbon cable here, and we need to sort of bend this back so it's flat so that we can see the other side of the connector there and the white line on it. Right there, you see it? So it's gonna look like this when you're putting it back together. Just go ahead and bend this back like that. That's gonna make it easier for you to plug it into your display here. Line facing up. Go ahead and slide it in there until you can't see the line anymore, and then you can lock it down. And then of course we're gonna line it up with the holes underneath, and we can set that down. We're gonna put the last 4 screws in for this HomePod. That holds the display down. And we are now ready for the final piece. Before we stick these back together, we need to make sure there's no obstructions on the volume buttons here. You see right there, there's a little bit of adhesive that's strewn across the increase volume button there, so we're just gonna scrape that clean. Otherwise, when they light up, they're gonna look dim in certain places. They're not gonna look even. So we're just gonna make sure that's all nice and clear. Make sure there's no hair stuck on here. Nothing covering this or the window for the ambient light sensor. And we can carefully reheat the top here and stick this back down. So to put this top touch cover back down, first make sure that your HomePods volume buttons are oriented the same way as I've got them here, perpendicular to your body. Warm up your adhesive. Hold your top cover like this. Place the end of the cover in between where the mesh goes into the frame here. We're going to use that as sort of like a swivel point. And then we're going to make sure these are lined up as best as we can. And we're going to start angling this down. And we're actually looking at it like this and trying to keep it lined up until we can't see it no more. And then we're just going to let it fall down. Before we push it down firmly, we're going to come from the top here and just make sure that it looks as centered as we can, as we feel we can get it. And then we can push it down. Don't go, freaking ape wild ugga dugga caveman gotta smash this HomePod back together when you're sticking this back on. Just give it firm force. You don't need to be excessive with it. Pushing it harder isn't gonna make it stick any better. And there you go, you've got yourself a solid HomePod again. Go ahead and wipe that top off with your microfiber cloth and some rubbing alcohol if you've still got any schmoo on there. Otherwise, you're ready to plug it into power and see if you've got it all ready to go. Don't forget to give yourself a drum roll, please. And we are powering on. So what have we got now?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. For more info, check the Home app.
No significant popping anymore. If there is a popping, it's okay. As long as it's not as loud as it was before, of course. But a little bit of popping is okay. I don't think I heard any this time, though. And I think we've gotten rid of all the static as well. So, volume buttons light up nice and even. I think we got this one all fixed up and ready to go. Now, due to the nature of the issues that Curtis was describing here for us, Curt, we're going to go ahead and leave this plugged into power overnight before we ship it back, just to make sure that there aren't still any issues or perhaps anything that we misdiagnosed here. But from a first glance, it looks like Curt's is all ready to go. So we're going to put that back into the box and move on to our second repair for today. This one comes to us from Anthony. And let's see, Anthony actually put a note in here to give us a little refresher of what their issue was. But it says, base issues as described in earlier email. Started with popping, then farting, then burning smell. Now just some distortion in bass with sometimes no bass. Reset HomePod before packing. Excellent. So, here is Anthony's HomePod. I presume we've got death farts from too much DC offset. So pretty much the same thing that we saw with Curt's HomePod here, but with slightly different presenting symptoms. That's normal. So, you left the power cable unplugged. Easy peasy. Let's go on ahead and plug this into power and double check our symptoms here. I'm expecting, of course, the bass to work when it plays the setup tone, but I'm also expecting to hear a pretty severe pop right before it plays that tone. So let's find out here. You should never be nervous if you send your pod into me. I can fix. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I can fix. I won't let you send it in to me if I don't think I can fix it. Good thing with all of these, like most of these like bass or sound issues in general. Hello? I had to interrupt my thought there. I wonder if it's still going through like the factory reset process. So we're gonna leave this. Whoa. Okay. That sounds like a bent subwoofer interfering with the seal, allowing air to escape whenever it's bumping the bass there. And we've got pretty significant popping, so interesting. Let's crack this open and see what we've got going on inside. Am I gonna have to replace 2 subwoofers today? I don't like it, but I'll do it. I don't smell anything burnt yet. The fact that they smelled burning electronics tells me that this was probably bent and not sealing properly before whatever burned, because anything that's going to burn is going to most likely be on the inside. And you got to remember, the inside is completely sealed off. So you shouldn't be able to smell anything coming from the inside of the pod unless there is a problem with that seal, which we heard. But again, I think that was probably a problem for a while here. So my question to you, Anthony, I'm expecting to see a bit of physical damage in here. Are you aware of any history of this pod experiencing any physical damage or being dropped or knocked off a shelf or anything? Did you buy it used with unknown history? Or maybe you've got like a crazy ex or kids or something? Because subwoofers don't bend themselves. It smelled so bad you had to place it outside the house. Wow. Yeah, so we've probably got some roasted components on the inside here, in addition to some physical damage. The two don't have anything to do with each other. They didn't play hand in hand. Interesting. Well, thank you for that answer. Let's see what let's see what's going on. I could be wrong. The subwoofer could be totally fine and one of the gaskets is just worn down. But I've not seen that yet. We'll see. Sort of worked and didn't smell, yeah. Okay. Give me that back. Can't have that. You have no need for it. You're a HomePod. Okay, so before we do anything else, we can just check and see if it's sealed or not. Oh. That does not sound good. That feels like a dead woofer. So maybe we don't have any physical damage and it's just the rattling is just straight up coming from how dead this subwoofer is. I could be wrong. And I'm starting to feel like that's the case. Because if it was a sealing issue, when I push this down, I would hear air escaping. But instead, I feel a really gritty actuation there. That tells me that this subwoofer is donezo. I'm going to give you guys one last reminder to like the video, yeah? I will interrupt your software update and break your HomePod if you don't. That is a threat. All right, time for the pry. Easy does it. 1, 2. Yeah. You know what? This subwoofer is dead, so we're gonna pry up against the woofer instead of the screws for this one. There we go. Easy peasy. Okay, the grand reveal. Oh, we got another stubborn subwoofer connector here. There we go. So, boy. Okay. Here we go again. With a very sad looking voice coil in there. That is ugly. And then if we take a listen here, that should not sound like that. It should instead sound like this. Like nothing. So that subwoofer is definitely roasted, and it's physically in good condition. So I take back what I said about there being any physical damage here. The noise that we were hearing was almost certainly just coming from that. So with another subwoofer down, let's go ahead and walk over to our parts shelf and make sure we've got another good one here for them. Let's see here. What do I got? I got a few here. Are these nice and straight? Aw, yeah. We got ourselves a not scratchy subwoofer. And it passes all the tests. So let's go ahead and move forward. We're going to find out why that subwoofer blew up. To do that, we're going to need to get all the way in there to the amplifier, as usual. And then we're going to hook it up to our test woofer here on the bench with our multimeter and confirm my suspicion, which is DC offset. I'm surprised really if it continued to work as well as it did after smelling as bad as it did. That's impressive. And the fact that it still like kind of works, albeit it's rattly as all hell, but I mean it still works, so that's kind of crazy. We got a tough guy over there. We got two tough guys in here. Yeah, you are no match. Detach that ribbon cable down there. And now our 14 screws for the amplifier. Oh yeah, that's some distorted bass, all right, brother. And the main event. What's going on with our amp here? Let's do a quick visual inspection. We've got a date code on our diode of 1742K again. Everything else looks fine. It just smells like roasted subwoofer. But none of the smell's actually coming from the board. It's kind of just like stuck on there from when the subwoofer was having a meltdown. So let's go ahead and same procedure as the first pod that we fixed up for Curt. Let's go ahead and power this amp up, connected to our multimeter, so we can just confirm our suspicion here which is that DC offset causing all of their issues. DC offset is a wild beast of a problem. Can cause all sorts of strange issues like this. Okay, let's give it a go. I'll be right back. If you want to know a good use for your dead subwoofer, they make excellent bottle openers with the built-in magnet to hold all your caps, and of course the fact that you can open up a bottle from basically any side of this with ease. Okay. I think we've given that enough time to think about its life. Let's see what it's got to tell us. Hello? Oh, I wonder if it's going to do the same thing again where it takes a sec for it to actually work. We've got power draw. We've got about 5 watts of power being drawn from the wall. Did that just light up? Did I miss that? Interesting. So we've just got no bass right now. At least with this logic board that's already pre-configured. I want to see what happens with their logic board again here, since that at least worked for us. We have stumbled upon ourselves a new set of behaviors here, folks. So yeah, we've got 300 millivolts of offset on a fresh boot, and it's growing fairly quickly. It's weird that my logic board didn't work with it. That's strange. Let's give that another go. Maybe I've got crud. Oh yeah, no, I've definitely got crud in there. I've got a lot of crud in there. Oh man. That's a lot of crud. Okay. Let's give that another go, shall we? Yeah, okay, so I just had a really crappy connection to my logic board there. So our base works. It's just got a nasty amount of DC offset that continues to grow. So we're going to replace those filtering capacitors. Same thing that we did with Curt's HomePod at the beginning of our stream here today. And then we're going to replace that Schottky barrier diode. If you don't remember, that's the part that we replace for every single HomePod that comes in, regardless of the problem, because we see this part fail so often and cause the most common no power issues. It's what most HomePods come in for. So if you happen to send your HomePod in for something other than a no power repair, we just preemptively replace that diode, hopefully to prevent the issue from occurring to you. Again, nobody, without schematics and without any info from Apple, nobody really knows why a lot of these parts are failing. We've just got our best guesses based on our experience and what we see here coming in day to day. So let's go ahead and get up close and personal with this board here. Bring ourselves into focus. Hocus focus. And let's start off by replacing those caps. Get rid of that DC offset that's causing all these problems. Easy peasy. Let's flux up those pads and put some low melt solder on there. A little more flux. Some new caps. A little bit of heat. I wonder if I could do all 4 of these at once. This is a bad idea. Don't do this. Alright. First try. Yeah, that didn't. Oh, well, maybe that will work. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Freaking... I mean, they're not, like, lined up perfectly, but they're on there. They're solid, man. Brother. I might do that from now on. That was awesome. Alright, let's take care of that diode there. Again, has nothing to do with our issues here, but we replace this every single time. Prevent that no power issue. Hopefully. Center yourself. And I don't mean that in the spiritual kind of way. I mean that in the physical kind of way. Okay. That should do it for board repairs here on this pod. Let's cool it off for a minute, and then we will give her a test. Okay. Power supply. Logic cable. Lock it in. Logic board. Free and clear of any debris. Subwoofer. Power cable. And power. What do we got? Brother. Look at that offset. Look at that offset. And just to prove it to you that it's connected to the subwoofer, beautiful, brothers. All right. I think this is ready to reassemble. I think we got it all fixed up. When we put it together, of course, we're gonna slap that new subwoofer in. That's interesting. Typically, we get a lot of no power repairs and not very many bass issue or death fart repairs like these. But the one day we get bass repairs, we get 2 of them that are that have like semi-working subwoofers still. What is going on with that camera? We will just continue. We're gonna ignore that. Oh, what's going on there? What happens if I relaunch? Yeah, that's better. No one cares. Reconnect that ribbon cable down there before we forget it. Lock it down. Power supply. Line it up. Give it a wiggle, make sure it's settled. Lock it in. Plug it in. Screw it in. Twist it. Pull it. Bop it. Is this our good woofer? Yes, it is. Let's take the grommets and the gasket from their old woofer here. Oh man, that thing is smelly. Whew. Nice and sealed and quiet. Let's put our top basket down. YouTube tells me that I've got 9 viewers at the moment and only 6 likes. You know what that means? That means I'm about to break 3 people's HomePods. Whose HomePods am I going to have to break here? What's up with that? Hey Eric, welcome to the stream. I'm glad the info on my website helped you. That's the goal. Save the pod. Alright. We are ready for the final step. Sticking this top down. Let's do that now. Oh, we got a little bit of sticky schmoo covering up the volume button there. Let's fix that. Line them up, set it down, hinge it down, keep it lined up, drop, check, and commit. You don't want to dilly-dally while your adhesive is still warm. You want to set that down and line it up as quick as possible while you've still got that that sticky gooiness. So, let's plug this into power and see how it works now. Wow, look at that. No hesitation booting up and playing the setup tone now. That's interesting. I've never seen DC offset cause the setup sound to behave like that before we fixed it. But it's another one for the books, I suppose. And we've got Anthony's pod all fixed up and ready to go. As with most of these death farts and bass repairs in general, I'm going to leave this plugged into power overnight. I'm going to set it up after the stream and leave it plugged into power. We're going to make sure that it continues to work fine overnight and before we ship it back to him tomorrow. With that all done, we've got one more pod here today from Terry. And Terry has got the pretty classic no power. At least I think. I'm not 100% positive who this came from yet, but I think I know who it is, and I think theirs has no power. So, we're going to find out. Hey Anthony, it's always a pleasure. I'm glad, I'm just happy that you trusted me with your repairs. Thank you. Another HomePod saved. Reveal yourself, Terry. There we go. Ooh, I like that tape. And here we go. So if this is whose I think it is, this one should have no power. So let's go ahead and test our symptoms here. Yes, indeed, no response. And we get about 6 watts of power draw from the wall. So based on the power draw and the symptoms we see here, I can take an educated guess that we've got the most common failure mode in here, being the shorted diode on the amplifier. You saw us replace this same part in the past 2 HomePods that we just repaired during the live stream today as a sort of preventative measure, whereas here it's too late. It's already shorted out and it's failed and it's caused there no power issue here, most likely. So let's go ahead and crack it open and see if we are correct from the inside. And I'm actually gonna probably zone out a little bit, be rather silent than usual, taking this one apart here. So if you have any questions about any of the steps, feel free to ask along the way. come on. Dang it. Sometimes the pod bites back. Everything looks good on the board except for that diode with a date code of 1748K. I betcha it's going to be shorted. Yes, indeed. Let's get that diode replaced and we'll test this pod and put it back together. New diode. think we got him. Let's cool this board off and see if we've got it. Put on a power supply. And screw it down. Logic cable. Lock it in. Logic board. Subwoofer. Power connector. Multimeter connected to our subwoofer. All right. Ready to test. Boo. We got power. Alright, do we have any DC offset to repair here? Doesn't look like it. Looks like we're hanging out around 19, 20 millivolts, so that is perfectly acceptable and well within spec. And it wasn't rapidly growing either. That's the other important part. Not only that it's below 50 millivolts, but that it's not rapidly growing. So if it like starts at like 5 millivolts, but it like grows past 50 within a matter of a few seconds, that's a problem. But if it starts at 5 millivolts and it creeps up a few millivolts over the course of a few minutes, that's fine. Good evening, Robin. You just caught the tail end of our repair stream here. We are just wrapping up the third and final repair for today. Let's give it a test. Power cable. Drum roll. Power. Very nice. Gonna take this time now to one last time remind you guys, if you enjoy this kind of content and you want to see more, please hit that like button, at least while it's still free. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And if you are trying to do your own repairs or you want to mail your HomePod in to be repaired here on the channel, check out my website, nixfix.com, at the bottom right of the video there. I've got a dedicated section for common issues that we repair on the channel, including steps to diagnose, repair, and any part numbers you may need to do those repairs. Also, my contact info is up on my website if you want to hit me up to send your pod in to be repaired here on the channel. So what have we got?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
We've got trouble connecting to the internet.
I'm having...
And we've got volume buttons that light up nice and even. So everybody, that's all that we've got to fix up here today. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll shut up. Catch you in the next one. Goodbye.